The North American P-51 Mustang, universally recognized as one of the greatest fighter aircraft ever built and a transformative force in the Allied victory during World War II, was the product of ingenuity, urgency, and international cooperation. Born in 1940 when the British Purchasing Commission sought additional fighter aircraft to bolster the Royal Air Force during the height of the Battle of Britain and initially asked North American Aviation not to produce Curtiss P-40 Warhawks under license, but NAA's President James H. Dutch Kindleberger and chief designer Edgar Schmood proposed instead to design and produce a brand new fighter that would exceed the performance of the P-40, a bold offer accepted on the condition that a prototype be ready in a short span of 120 days, a challenge met with remarkable efficiency as the first XP-51 prototype rolled out in only 117 days, marking the beginning of an extraordinary lineage. The early Mustang, designated NA-73X, featured several innovations including a laminar flow wing designed to minimize drag and maximize efficiency at higher speeds, and an innovative cooling system that exploited the Meredith effect in its ventral radiator to provide additional thrust, giving the airframe an aerodynamic advantage that would prove critical. Though the first production models powered by the Allison V1710 engine were hampered at high altitudes, limiting them to roles such as low-level reconnaissance and ground attack, tasks they performed admirably but not yet at the level of premier interceptors. Yet everything changed when British engineers suggested mating the airframe with the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, an idea tested in Britain and then realized in the United States with the Packard-built Merlin V1650 engine, a combination that transformed the Mustang into a world-class high-altitude fighter with superb performance, instantly elevating it to one of the most capable aircraft of the war. With the Merlin engine, the P-51B and P-51C models could achieve speeds of around 440 miles per hour, a service ceiling above 40,000 feet, and a combat range exceeding 1,600 miles with drop tanks, making them the first Allied fighters able to escort heavy bombers like the B-17 Flying Fortress and B-24 Liberator deep into Germany and back, drastically reducing bomber losses and shifting the air war. As before their arrival, bomber formations flying daylight raids suffered devastating casualties against the Luftwaffe, but once Mustangs began flying long-range escort in late 1943 and 1944, the tables turned, allowing sustained bombing campaigns that crippled Germany's industrial base and oil supplies. Armed with 6.50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns with a combined ammunition load of up to 1,880 rounds, the Mustang possessed formidable firepower for both air-to-air combat and strafing ground targets, while its agility, high roll rate, and tight turning radius made it a deadly adversary against Messerschmitt Bf-109s, Focke-Wulf FW-190s, and later even the Me-262 jet when caught in vulnerable phases of flight, leading to incredible kill ratios such as 11:1 in favor of Mustang pilots during late war encounters, and among the many aces who flew the Mustang were George Preddy, the top-scoring Mustang ace with 26.83 kills, Bud Anderson, John C. Meyer, Chuck Yeager, and the celebrated Tuskegee Airmen of the 332nd Fighter Group, whose distinctive red-tailed P-51s became a symbol of skill, discipline, and the breaking of racial barriers in the U.S. military, earning the respect of bomber crews who often requested them specifically as escorts. The P-51's versatility was another of its strengths, as it served not only as a long-range escort but also as a fighter-bomber capable of carrying 500 or 1,000-pound bombs, rockets, and drop tanks, performing ground attack missions that destroyed trains, convoys, and airfields, particularly in the closing months of the war when Luftwaffe airpower was crumbling, and in the Pacific theater. While its long range made it useful for missions such as escorting B-29 superfortresses on raids against Japan, it played a somewhat less central role compared to the European campaign, though it nevertheless contributed significantly in island-hopping operations and later during the final push against the Japanese homeland. Design evolution continued with the P-51D, the most iconic and widely produced version, featuring a bubble canopy that greatly improved pilot visibility, a strengthened fuselage, increased ammunition capacity, and other refinements, and more than 8,000 of this variant were built, cementing it as the definitive Mustang, followed by the lighter and faster P-51H that arrived too late to see action in World War II but represented the pinnacle of the design, with a top speed exceeding 480 miles per hour. Yet production ceased as the jet age dawned, though not before a total of over 15,000 Mustangs were manufactured across all variants, serving in the air forces of more than 55 nations worldwide. After World War II, the Mustang remained highly relevant, serving in the Korean War primarily in ground attack and close air support roles, where its range and payload capacity were invaluable, though increasingly vulnerable to jet fighters like the MiG-15, yet still admired for its ruggedness, reliability, and ability to absorb damage and return home. And beyond Korea, Mustangs flew in numerous smaller conflicts, including with Israel in its 1948 War of Independence, with Sweden, Switzerland, and other European nations during the early Cold War, in Latin America where they served with countries such as the Dominican Republic and El Salvador well into the 1960s and 1970s, and even in Africa and Asia, giving the Mustang a truly global combat record. Technically, the Mustang's success lay in the harmony of its features, from the aerodynamic laminar flow wing and Meredith effect radiator to the Packard Merlin engine supercharger that enabled excellent high-altitude performance, combined with a spacious cockpit, good ergonomics for long flights, and structural durability that allowed pilots to push the aircraft aggressively in combat, while maintenance crews valued its accessibility and relatively straightforward servicing needs compared to more complex fighters. The Mustang also left a deep cultural and symbolic legacy, immortalized in wartime propaganda, post-war films, aviation literature, and later in popular culture, becoming a symbol not just of American airpower but of freedom and the sacrifices of the greatest generation, with surviving examples treasured by museums, collectors, and airshow performers, and heavily modified versions dominating post-war air racing, especially in the Reno air races where names like Strega and Voodoo pushed the Mustang design to speeds approaching 500 miles per hour, proving its continued competitiveness decades after its creation. Historians and aviation enthusiasts continued to debate whether the P-51 Mustang was the single most important Allied fighter of World War II, with some pointing to the Spitfire's role in the Battle of Britain or the ruggedness of the P-47 Thunderbolt, yet the consensus remains that the Mustang's unique combination of long range, speed, high-altitude performance, and combat effectiveness was decisive in securing air superiority over Europe, without which the strategic bombing campaign and the D-Day landings would have faced far greater peril, and so the Mustang's reputation as the airplane that won the war has endured, supported by testimonies from bomber crews who credited it with their survival and by statistics showing the Luftwaffe's rapid decline once it entered service in strength. Even today, more than 80 years after its first flight, restored P-51s continue to grace the skies, their Rolls-Royce Merlin engines producing a distinctive growl that captivates audiences and serves as a living link to history, while collectors pay millions to acquire and maintain them, and veterans and aviation lovers alike revere them as masterpieces of engineering and symbols of courage, ensuring that the Mustang's legacy will never fade. Thus, the P-51 Mustang was not merely a fighter plane but a technological breakthrough, a strategic game-changer, and a cultural icon, embodying the ingenuity of its designers, the skill of its pilots, and the enduring belief that superior technology combined with human determination can alter the course of history, and as such it remains forever enshrined in the annals of aviation as the ultimate piston-engine fighter of World War II.